2 weeks of blood, sweat, and cash have been poured into making the field for the 91st Indianapolis 500. We are down to the final hour of bump day. It's time to go fast or go home.
Qualifying from Indianapolis, Indiana, scene of the world's greatest race car, Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Little Al wins by just a few tenths of a second.
Every May, the story starts on 16th Street. For almost a century, this has been the pinnacle of auto racing, where dreams become a milk-drenched reality and where hopes can disintegrate at over 200 miles an hour.
Here they come! Keep those cameras running. We could have a photo finish.
Perhaps the closest finish in the history of the Indianapolis 500.
We've been through 3 days of qualifying, and the field is almost set. A two-time champ, Helio Castroneves, is on the pole, while his teammate and last year's winner, Sam Hornish Jr., sits one row behind. Michael and Marco Andretti are ready to renew their Brickyard battle and will welcome cousin John into the mix. And yesterday, Milka Duno joined Danica Patrick and Sarah Fisher in the field, marking perhaps the first time 3 women will start the Indy 500. That is, if Milka can survive Bump Day. Bump Day, where a driver who's yet to make the field can push another off the grid. It's the last chance to make the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500.
How fast can you run?
And we welcome you back to the motor racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indianapolis, Indiana. And welcome to Bump Day for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. And again, the clear skies have prevailed. The shade is starting to drift over the front straightaway, and live on the track right now, as it's about to happen, Roberto Moreno has withdrawn his time that he recorded yesterday that put him 30th in this field at 2:16.229. The reason he's doing this is we'll bring you up to speed. If you remember, just before we left you earlier today on ABC, Richie Hearn put his car into the field, filling the 33 positions. That put Jimmy Kite on the bump spot, and at 3:43 p.m., Phil Giebler bumped out the 18 car of Jimmy Kite. So that means Moreno's car was on the bump, Scott Goodyear, and they're just trying to take a preemptive strike. They think they can go 220 and get safe.
Well, that's the speed they're shooting for right now. He just did some practicing just before he ended up going into the qualifying line, and those speeds were up towards 220 miles an hour. So this is what he's going to be shooting for right now. He certainly wants to get away from that 216 mark that he was sitting at before, which was actually very vulnerable.
So he begins his first of 4 qualifying laps. Let's get more from Brianne Pedigo.
Guys, I spoke with Roberto just yesterday about what the challenges would be for him hopping in this car. He is known as the super sub, but this is Indianapolis, and it presents its own set of challenges. He told me that the biggest challenge for him would be getting used to the speed at such a short notice. Yesterday, he was only able to come up with, like you said, around 216, but now they feel like they've got consistent 220s. That's why they chose to get it in the field, so the guys said they can go home.
Well, and what you see on our grid right there is that now the 33rd spot is open because they withdrew their time. Here comes his first lap at 2:19.8. So a big improvement over yesterday's 2:16 average.
And when you think about it, he hasn't been here for so many years to be able to come here and drive this car. Remember, the difference about Indianapolis is that it's constantly at 215, 220 miles an hour. Road courses or any other type of racing, you generally see maybe 200 miles an hour, but for a short point of time before you get on the brakes to navigate the next corner. Well, here at Indianapolis, it's just flat out all the way around, and this is a pretty great speed for somebody that's only been in the car a couple of days, Marty.
Yeah, and remember, he got into this car after the crash by Stefan Gregoire, as Gregoire fractured a vertebra in his back. He was here at the track yesterday, Stefan was, and looked to be fine, but not well enough to get out into the race car, and that's how Moreno gets in. And now his second lap even faster at 2:20.4. So that is the insurance package that they were looking for.
And that's a veteran at work. He has the experience driving so many different types of race cars all the way around the world. He is very well respected, 48 years of age, but everybody knows if you put Roberto in the car, he's going to get the job done. And most importantly, he's not going to throw it against the wall and cause a lot of damage.
Over the years, he has earned the moniker of Super Sub, and he is proving it right now, as with the pressure of the final hour of bump day, he comes up to the white flag and his third lap at 2:20.5. So each lap is getting progressively quicker.
And that's because he's feeling comfortable in the car, maybe tuning the car to the conditions of the racetrack right now. We always talk about the adjustments a driver has inside the cockpit. He can change the weight jacker and move that around, change the weight around on the car to make it grip a little bit better throughout the turn or make it more comfortable, and also adjust the roll bars on the car, both front and rear. Some tuning aids a driver has inside the cockpit to change the race car.
Now, the best position that he can come up with is the very position he had going into today's action, which would be 30th. And it looks like as he comes down for the checkered flag, that's exactly where he's going to end up. So his fourth lap at 2:20.4 puts him in the field, 2:20.299.
220 average. What a job.
So it'd be 31st on the grid. He's on the inside of row number 11. And that puts Marty Roth on the bubble at 218.922. There's the team congratulating everybody. They know now they are very safe. Well, there's a lot of stories that are developing throughout the day. Obviously, PDM racing is one of them. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Boy, it's been an eventful weekend for PDM Racing. Of course, Jimmy Kite in the car of the number 18 machine owned by Paul Diatlovich, a longtime team member and team owner here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Diatlovich mortgaged his home to help finance this effort, but the car is not getting the appropriate speed. There you see it sitting in pit lane. Not only has the car been bumped from the field already today, but they don't have the necessary speed to bump their way in. And then here's the real backbreaker. They're up against the mileage limit. These cars and these motors have a limited number of miles available to them. PDM is just about out of miles in regards to this motor. So they've been talking to the Honda officials, maybe trying to get some additional miles, but certainly PDM is up against it right now as they face this final hour of qualifying here at Indianapolis. Jack Arute?
Well, yeah, Vince, that mileage issue is what's faced P.J. Jones as well. If you're a second weekend qualifier, you are entitled to only 1,000 miles. That includes the 500 miles required for the race a week from today. For P.J. Jones, it's been a struggle trying to figure out what this race car needed. They tore it down last night. They've been limited in terms of what they could do here because the mileage clicker was ticking. But the folks at Honda, with some intercession from the Indy Racing League, have now added at 5 o'clock some additional miles. For P.J. Jones, he told me the last time out, the car was so bad they had to evacuate turn 2, tongue-in-cheek, because he thought he was going to crash. They've gone and rethought things out. Now, between now and 6 o'clock, Brianne Pedigo, P.J. Jones hopes to bump his way into this 91st running of the Indy 500.
Well, Jack, time is running out, and someone that's going to be closely looking at their watch is Marty Roth, who is now on the bubble because of Roberto Moreno withdrawing his time and re-qualifying. We now see the 25 in the vulnerable position. There's only about less than an hour to go before the gun fires and ends qualifying for this year's Indianapolis 500. So we'll see. This is where strategy starts to come into effect. Bump day is nothing if not dramatic.
And we have approximately 52 minutes. There's Stefan Gregoire over the right side there. If you're wondering who's next after Marty Roth on the bump spot, it would be Milka Duno. Stay with us. We're coming back to Indy. Hard. So the drama has continued here at Indianapolis on Bump Day. Let's take you back. If you were not with us earlier this afternoon on ABC, you missed Richie Hearn's attempt to make it into the field. He was very successful, to say the least, as Hearn came out and with very little practice managed to click off 4 laps at an average of 219.860, which puts him safely in the field for now.
And Marty, he did a great job. He has nice lines, using the full extent of the track, keeping the speed up, not scrubbing off too much speed around the turns. A very nice job by Richie Hearn.
And then at 3:43 this afternoon, Phil Giebler, remember the crash he had yesterday? Well, they got the car back together. He came out, did a few practice laps, and he comes out and puts the car into the field. Right now, he's in the 33rd position at 219.637 miles an hour. So a great comeback for the rookie, Phil Giebler. So let's take a look now at our entire grid as it now stands. These guys have been very familiar for the last week. Elio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti.
Row 2, the Scott Dixon and also Sam Hornish Jr. and Dan Weldon on the outside, so we find 2 target cars on row 2.
Ryan Briscoe, a winner yesterday in the ALMS race at Salt Lake. He came out today and practiced here, so he's ready to go. So is Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti.
On row 4, a great job by Thomas Schechter, Michael Andretti in the middle of the row, and then Scott Sharp on the outside of row 4.
And if you were with us, Michael Andretti had Tony Kanaan run some laps in his car right before we went off the air. As you look at the 5th row, we can tell you there was nothing really wrong with the car. They just wanted to compare notes. TK took it for a few laps. Actually, very comparable in speeds. Here's row number 6, an 04 winner with Buddy Rice, Koski Matsura, and AJ Foyt the 4th.
And row number 7, Vitor Meira with the Panther Racing Team. Davey Hamilton, what a great story that is after his crash in 2001. Now getting back in the race car for the very first time. And the second woman in the field so far, Sarah Fisher.
Then take a look at row 8. You got Buddy Lazier, Roger Yasukawa, and John Andretti back for the first time in 13 years.
And row 9 on the inside, a friend of mine, Alan Zer Jr., Alex Barron, and John Herb.
And then in row number 10 is Jacques Lazier, Milka Duno, and Marty Roth. Those 2 are the next 2 victims on the bump. It's first Roth, then Milka. Then there's Moreno, as he's on the inside of row 11, Richie Hearn, and Phil Giebler. Let's talk to Roberto Moreno. He's with Vince.
Well, Roberto Moreno was just wiping his eyes a moment ago. I think some tears of joy, maybe tears of relief. How good does it feel to be back in the Indianapolis 500, first time since 1999?
It's fantastic. I would like to thank you, Tom Chastain and the Chastain family and the whole crew, because they stood with me yesterday going through the learning process. Too much information for one day. We played a lot with the car, but then we decided, okay, this is the setup we need, and we needed to balance the car. We could not do that yesterday, so we had to go qualified just in case it rained today or whatever I had, and it was really tough to be out there. And today we got the car well the way we wanted. We started to trim, and we knew to be on the grid solid, you need to do a 219.5 at least average. So we've trimmed the car once. First I got myself to go flat, then I trimmed the car once, then we trimmed it twice, and we got it to 220. I say, guys, let's not trim anymore, let's just get in line, because I can do this the way it is. If we start being too optimistic, we might go over the top. So we didn't get a car that was extremely trim. We only trimmed a couple of times, and it worked. So what we needed, we got it, and I'm sure it's almost certain we'll be on the grid with that lap time. So I'm extremely happy. It's been, 8 years trying, and I've been coming to the Speedway, I think about 4 or 5 times, trying to get an opportunity. Finally came on the expenses of Stefan, a good friend of mine, but the good thing is he's okay. He's going to be driving again soon, and he's one of my biggest fans. So I'm very, very pleased, and I cannot thank you enough, the Chastain family and my whole team. They did a superb job to stick with me yesterday, be patient, and we got it done today.
He went from the bubble to firmly in the field, and he's got a lot of fans down here on pit lane. Marty?
Yeah, he is 7th in line to be bumped now instead of being on the bubble. And he is now the only one in this field that can say he has raced in all 3 decades, unless I would make a bet on that. Allenser Jr. is also in that mix as well. But it's an accomplishment. His first time qualifying here was way back in 1986. And Scott Goodyear, you saw the emotion there right at the beginning. It means a lot.
It means a lot just to get in the field here at the Indianapolis 500. And you know something, for somebody, like I said, has been coming here for so many years to get it done. I've known Roberto for years. You know, he's an established driver, as I mentioned before. And to see him get so choked up about getting involved in this field, you can really tell what it means to a driver to be here. And I can assure you, last night, he didn't sleep very much because you're going through your head about what you need to do to the car. Am I doing the right thing? What am I doing here? Will I get the job done tomorrow? You know, am I going to embarrass myself and maybe never have a chance to come back here and try for a race here at the Indianapolis 500? I bet you maybe got about 2 or 3 hours sleep last night.
The part that I really liked was the veteran came through. Guys, let's not go any further. We're going to make it solid. I can do this. Let's go.
Absolutely.
And he did it. Let's go out on the track because there is Marty Roth. He is practicing because he knows he is on the bump spot right now. Brienne, what's the latest from his pit?
They told me that he's going to go out like he is now, do a couple more practice runs. We mentioned that this team, and Marty Roth especially, is going to be watching his watch until 6 o'clock. The other thing they're keeping their eye on is P.J. Jones. If that 40 goes into the line to qualify, bet everything they are going to be watching him like a hawk. If he pulls out an impressive time, Marty Roth will be ready to get back in line if he has to bump himself back in.
Well, his last lap was at 2:18.9, so they're obviously going to try and look a little bit more for some more speed.
And you know, the speed is what he's looking for when he's on the track by himself, getting ready to go off and get qualifying. He's run 2:21.1 today, but that's generally with the benefit of a draft or other cars on the racetrack out there, creating an opportunity for his car to go quicker.
Well, you can see he's letting it breathe through that turn, and you've got to be able to keep it flat if you're going to go over 2:19. We're going to step aside for just a moment. Stay with us. We have a lot more coming up on Bump Day. Pole sitter Elio Castroneves leads the field to the green flag at the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 telecast, presented by GoDaddy.com, next Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on ABC. That is Alex Barron out on the track, taking some full tank runs. He is safely in the field right now. Let's get an update on the man that's not in the field, P.J. Jones. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Yeah, Marty, the same man that Marty Roth has got people watching like you'd be with an eagle eye. P.J. Jones went out, ran a couple of laps, reported back to the crew, Scott Goodyear, that the car just did not feel correct in the middle of the corners. Said it started to go neutral, and P.J. is a veteran here, so what he says, I don't think that's really what I want to have out there. So now what the crew has decided to do is they're going to lower the car just a little bit, but they have enough tires left that they're going to also put a new set of Firestone Firehawks on the car. Go out and run a couple of more laps and see if that cures that uncertainty in the middle of the corners that P.J. Jones is experiencing.
Well, Jack, it's interesting you talk about the middle of the turn because that's where the car really doesn't want to have any scrub, but you want it to get through the turn nicely enough that it's actually not going to give you that scrub or actually have the back end feel like it's going to come around, because that's when the driver gets a little bit nervous. So for him, I guess lower going to give him a little bit more grip. New tires going to give him some more grip, but he's just got to try and get it done for 4 laps. That's the big thing for him right now.
And Scott, you know what now? You want to feel the pressure as a driver? Honda just notified this team that they are only going to give them 3 more laps, and then they'll have to decide whether or not to put it in the line.
Oh man, you talk about pressure. It's bad enough we've got less than 40 minutes. Now you're being told you can run 3 practice laps, and if you can't figure out the setup, tough luck.
You know, and that puts a lot of pressure on the driver right now, sitting inside his office there, to go out there and maybe get something out of the car that's not available for it. And that's when drivers start to make bad decisions and then possibly put it into the wall. So if you've been here for a couple of weeks, as we now look at Marty Roth's car, the number 25 Roth Racing Machine, you got to believe that the pressure right now for both of these drivers is just truly more than they can probably stand.
Marty's last lap, you can see his average at 2:18. That's his average that he qualified with. His last lap was 2:19 and some change, and that would still leave him vulnerable. Jimmy Kite is the man also looking for speed, and Kite has got to find about 4 to 5 more mile an hour because this car just hasn't been much above about 213, 214 all day.
You know, but this is what Indianapolis is all about. These are people coming here because they want to be involved in the Indianapolis 500. It's obviously watched from around the world, and they go out there and they will just weigh their risk-reward ratio about what it takes to be able to try and get into this field to race on race day. And sometimes you just don't think about your own safety. You put yourself on the line, you put the car on the line, and you go past the line just trying to get into this race.
So we've got one team that's out of practice laps. We've got this team that's got its owner, PDM, Paul Diatlovich, mortgaging his house just so they could make the attempt. And if they don't make the field, obviously you got a lot of bills to pay for a lot of years to come.
And Jimmy Kite obviously has that weight on his shoulders because he's known Paul for quite a few years. So you take all those things with your team into your cockpit and you actually get behind the wheel. Although you're doing it at 215 or 20 miles an hour, all those things sort of weigh on the driver, and he wants to put it in the field simply just to help out his team.
You take a look at the telemetry, 216 down the straightaway. I mean, it's just not enough speed.
Well, a lot of times what ends up happening is that you've got, as we start to see the 40 car P.J. Jones start to come really high and wide coming off of turn 2 there. A lot of times when the car doesn't have even straightaway speed, they've got a lot of downforce in the car to make the driver comfortable to get around the circuit, and you'll never find the speed going down the straight or the overall lap time with a car that has way too much downforce on it for qualifying.
So now I don't know, we'll have to check to see how many laps PJ ran there, if it was just one quick out and back in, or if he put 2 laps of his 3 that he had left for practice. I just can't imagine what these guys are thinking. The pressure's got to be enormous.
You want it over. However it is, you just want it over. Whether it's good news or bad news, you just want to get the day over with.
Well, of course, in the story behind the 40 with the paint scheme, that in celebration of the 40th anniversary of the turbine, which his father, Parnelli Jones, drove here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's why they went with the meatball, the black with the white numerals. Jack, let's get an update on PJ's situation.
Well, they've used up one of their 3 allocated laps, and he still is telling his crew right now that the car is just so inconsistent. He said he didn't do anything different than he's done all day, and then all of a sudden he went down into turn 2, and the car just washed out like it did earlier today. And now, with disappointment in his voice, P.J. Jones is telling his crew, we ain't got it. We ain't going to be able to do this. They still have 2 laps, and now it's up to this crew to convince this driver that at least it's worth to use up those 2 laps before they throw in the towel.
Well, it's easy for them. They're not the ones behind the wheel.
I've had them numerous times, even in testing where you come down. You know, in testing when you're off a track somewhere and you're not trying to get into a race or something like that, you can come down there, basically undo your safety belt as you're coming down the pit lane and get ready to step out of the car and just say, you know something, it needs to go back in the garage. We need to change it to fix it. But they don't have the luxury of this amount of time right now. And Jack mentioned about him going high on 2. We saw that on the screen. And you know something, if he wasn't scared before that, he's certainly scared now.
Well, remember Jack said earlier in the day, he said he almost ended up in the suites over in turn 2. So obviously the crosswind that is pushing you towards the wall there is part of the issue, but they've got more than that. They're running out of laps here at Indy. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the drama continues to unfold. They're trying to decide in P.J. Jones's camp whether or not to even go back out because this car is so unruly. Meanwhile, Marty Roth is going back out to practice again just in case he gets bumped. We have approximately about 33 minutes. Then there's Jimmy Kite, who also is struggling to find speed to try and punch his way back into this field and give Paul Diatlovich his home back. That's really what we're talking about.
Essentially, you know, unfortunately for Jimmy Kite, though, 214.3, which has been his practice speed, is not going to get the job done. We've seen somewhere around the 220 and I think maybe a 221 for Marty Roth, although that's probably with the benefit of a toe. So if he does get bumped out, maybe he will find the speed. But I really feel for this team right now, Marty, because I don't think the 18 of Jimmy Kite and Paul Diatlovich are going to be able to find the speed here in the next 30 minutes.
And I'm sure Marty Roth, unless his camp is watching our broadcast, isn't even aware of the struggles that those two teams are having. Or maybe he might just be sitting back and saying, I'll wait and see what they can do first.
Well, he's got to be prepared to defend just in case he does get bumped off. But the only thing he needs to do right now is to go out there, make sure the car is comfortable, and basically sit and wait. And if it looks like there's going to be a few people start to get in line to go for qualifying, then maybe he needs to go and present his car. Remember, he can go into the qualifying line, he can go through tech, he can come off the tech pad. He does not actually have to turn around and withdraw his car at that point in time. He just has to be ready.
All right, while we watch Marty Roth practice, we've got a microphone. We're going to listen in to what the discussion is over in
But you don't
PJ's
want to
camp.
be in the hospital. And I don't want you in the hospital.
Problem is, we're not sure we got it right now.
No.
Well, we think we do, but fuck,
Let's make a rational decision.
It's your call. It's your call.
well, I said raise it up. Let's go try it again, but
If that's what you want to do, we'll
let's
do
go
it.
raise it up.
Okay.
Guys, that's what bravery is all about. That's what the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is all about. P.J. Jones knows he has 2 laps, 5 miles. Chris Paulson and this team know that they have just asked their driver to give not 110%, but 150%. 2 laps, 1 more change to try and find 6 miles an hour. That's Indy.
And we're going to apologize for PJ. He did not know our microphone was there, and he can't see out the side of that helmet. So we apologize for the one comment. I'm sure he was not aware. It is a pressure-packed moment. It is just unbelievable, the pressure that these guys are under. And it's every year this happens. Jimmy Kite looks like he's pushing down. Vince, what's the latest?
What they're going to do, Marty, is go down and make a practice run. They've got to put fuel in the car, and then they want to come back because he's fighting a tight race car from the center of the corner out, and they believe that's causing them to scrub the speed that is keeping them from reaching the area in which they need to get from a time and speed perspective to get themselves back into the field. But this is a big gamble because they're out of miles. They've got to make one very quick run to see if the car has freed up from the chassis adjustment that they've made. Then they're going to put a set of stickers on the car, and they're going to roll him into the qualifying line, whether they feel like they've got the capable speed to do it or not. So much as Jack indicated about the pressures of Indianapolis and the driver having to step up in the seat even when the car likely is not there to do so, Jimmy Kite facing a very similar situation with this PDM car. And remember, Paul Diatlovich's house riding on the outcome here today. Jack Arute.
Well, Vince, probably the toughest decision that a team ever has to make, and the most difficult decision for a driver, has now been made by car number 40. With 2 laps left on their engine lease, and that's well over the amount of laps that they purchased on a second weekend, courtesy of Honda's good nature. And knowing that they were short by 6 miles an hour, P.J. Jones has decided, in concert with his car owner, rather than chance injury or destroying this car, he is going to get out and wait until 2008 to try and live his dream. This is probably one of the most difficult decisions, and I'm going to try and get a comment here from PJ. If get the helmet off, if you can describe for people that haven't been put in a decision-making process like you just had to make, just how difficult it was to process all that was being told you and know that you only had 2 laps left on the bonus laps that you got from Honda, and having to say, guys, we can't do this.
Well, that was difficult. I mean, to miss the Indy 500, I mean, obviously I grew up here, but it's better than busting your butt, and that's where we were headed. I mean, I almost hit outside turn 2 just almost pushed up into it, and we just, we got the car, late last week, or when we started really working on it, and we've had some struggles this week. I mean, we've had things that my 8 years of IndyCar racing I haven't had happen. Scales off, some geometry issues, and just stuff that has really hurt us. And then to plop on top of everything, the mileage on the engine and being restricted by that, it's difficult. We haven't been able to go out and just run all day and try to hammer it and get it right, and so we're being 4 miles an hour off. I mean, Ken and I talked about it. I mean, obviously you don't want to give up, but I don't want to take a trip to Methodist either, and I don't want to hurt his car. I was more worried about that. I mean, obviously he has a lot at stake here, so difficult. I mean, good spot.
It was laid down the line to you, and Chris Paulson was really the last man in trying to plead with you about this. And it sounds to me like it wasn't about as much you busting your butt as it was where this team is financially.
Well, absolutely. And, I mean, it's just, you got 30 minutes to make up 4 mile an hour. We haven't hit it. We just haven't hit it. We've had some help from some good teams, and they've come and helped us. And every time we've had that, we found some things that have helped us, and things that were wrong with the race car. But it's like we don't know that there's not something else wrong. Right. And my gut feeling tells me there's something else wrong, because I've done this quite a bit, and when the car's not comfortable. And, usually, I know, Richie Hearn and Davey Hamlin, they got out of the cars that they're qualifying. It was like, hey, the thing was stuck, no big deal. And I'm running 214, my fingernails are white. So.
All right, let me ask you this. How hard are the next 365 days going to be for P.J. Jones?
Well, they're tough. Coming in here with a small team and a limited budget is going to be tough. I want to run here. I want to run here with a big team and, be able to really go after it. And, you look at Jimmy Kite. He's a good race car driver. And the only reason he's not in this race is because he doesn't have the right equipment. So, it's the same thing. It's all about equipment.
Brienne?
Well, over here in the Roth camp, they have just found out the news about P.J. Jones hopping out of the car, and they are breathing a sigh of relief. They say that they are not going to do anything they don't have to do, which is probably good news if you're Marty Roth, who just came in. He's not even happy with his car right now. He says he was flat out and extremely slow. So they're still making some adjustments just in case, but they're keeping their fingers crossed with just 20 minutes left to go.
All right, thanks, Brienne. And dejected P.J. Jones. One thing you should remember, P.J. suffered a fractured vertebra in a crash practicing for the 2002 Indy 500. So he knows what it means to take that trip down to Methodist Hospital. And discretion sometimes is the better part of valor. We're going to step aside one more time. The pressure's now squarely on that man right there, Jimmy Kite. Can he get in? Or does Marty Roth survive? Defending race champ and current points leader Carl Edwards looks to stop white-hot Clint Boyer and return to victory lane under the lights. Charlotte, it's the NASCAR Busch Series at Charlotte, ESPN2, Saturday at 7:30 Eastern. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as bump day is into the final 23 minutes, there is Jimmy Kite sort of waiting, and this becomes a cat and mouse game a little bit. The question is, can they find enough mile an hour to bump Marty Roth off of the bubble spot? And there is Marty waiting to see what Jimmy does.
Jason just had a really good suggestion. If you want some really good coverage, you could hop out of your car and go down and talk to Jimmy and ask if he's going to qualify.
Does Margaret know we're listening in on their radio frequency?
Well, that's what I think. One of you guys just go down there and tell them to go do it rather than have me move back a row.
Oh, you wouldn't do it. We'd go across the pad, but we do not have to withdraw our papers until after we go through tech. They hand us the papers to withdraw, and we don't have to sign it. We can wave it off and say, you know what, we've changed our minds. We're going to let it stick.
That would add some
little
TV
interesting
drama.
strategy there. Let's go back to Jimmy Kite's camp.
Marty, I'm with Paul Diatlovich, team owner for the PDM machine in car number 18 with driver Jimmy Kite. And Paul, certainly we've been documenting your story throughout the course of the weekend, but you're not in a very enviable position right now. Just set the stage for where you are and what faces you.
Well, it's unfortunate. Right now I have probably one of the best drivers that's ever graced the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in my car, and I didn't give him a good enough car to make the race with.
We've talked a lot with P.J. Jones's effort and also with your effort about the number of miles allowed on a Honda engine. You're up against it from that perspective as well. Is there any opportunity to get extra miles from Honda?
Honda's a great company. They supply a great engine. It's the same for everybody. I missed on the chassis setup. You know, the motor deal, no, it's the same for everybody. We had the same opportunity everybody else had. I missed on the chassis, and unfortunately, with Jimmy Kite in the car, we figured that we could overcome some of the shortcomings of a small team struggling to survive, and obviously, even his talent couldn't pull us through on this. It's definitely, goes down to my shoulders. It's unfortunate. We picked up a great sponsor in Z-Line Designs. We tried to give him the best opportunity that we could to showcase his fine products, and we'll have one shot, and we'll do the best we can, but I'm not sure right now.
Thank you, Paul. As you heard Paul Diatlovich say, his team will have one shot at the qualifying attempt, even though they haven't been able to get the speed here in practice today that it would be necessary to get into the field. They're going to roll the dice anyway and put Jimmy Kite out on the track for one attempt at making this field.
Well, these two have been through it before. Remember, it was a few years ago when Jimmy was next in line when the gun sounded. They never got a chance to get into the field that day. They did make it the one other time that they paired up. And here in this third attempt, it's going to come down to what really is going to amount to a bonsai run.
It really is, and the pressure is on the driver. Yes, the team is putting together something for him to drive, but as soon as he gets the command from Brian Barnhart to exit out onto the racetrack to start his qualifying run, then it's really just on the shoulders of the driver, and he knows what he has to do. He has to drive the car past the limit, keep his foot flat on the gas, and he just hopes that they've made some adjustments to the car that makes him able to go fast enough to get in the car in the field. But, I really look at the situation, and you're not looking for, 0.2 of a mile an hour or half a mile an hour. You're looking for a lot of speed here right now. And I think P.J. Jones, that group got very smart. They sort of said, something, it's not going to happen this year. Let's get out, come back next year. And this situation with Jimmy, I know him well. He just wants to get into the field, and I know the whole team does. But, boy, this is a large risk-reward ratio right now for not only the team, but especially the driver who's inside that cockpit right now.
Well, you can hear the engine coming to life. Let's check in with Jackaroo.
Well, I'm back here in the Greg Beck garage. Now, he already has Alex Barrett in the 98. They've completed their work. But this is the 43. This is the backup car that had been linked to several drivers as early as yesterday when we visited with P.J. Chesson. Now, just moments ago, I chatted with Greg Beck out on the line. He said this car has already been through tech. It could be put in the line. I asked him what he thought about maybe being able to work a deal with PDM Racing. He said, Jack, Paul Diatlovich is a good friend of mine. He's a small team, just like I am. There would have to be some financial issues straightened out. But if I could help someone that has been in the same situation and still is in the same situation as I am, I certainly would give it due consideration.
Well, somebody better get the word to Paul, because he's got about 17, 18 minutes before the gun is going to go off here and end qualifying. His driver is back out on the track right now, Jimmy Kite, and obviously all eyes will be focused on him, because as we can tell, unless something comes out of the woodwork we haven't expected, this is going to be the last guy that has a shot at bumping his way in.
Well, I can just tell by the throttle that he has in the car. You can hear him sort of ease off the throttle getting through the turn, and usually you need to try and be a little bit more aggressive to get yourself up to speed. We'll have a little listen here to see how he goes. Way off the throttle, down to 40% throttle through turn 1. Do a telltale now here in turn 2 to see how he does. The second turn in the combination of turns is generally easier, as we see there, 100% throttle, so feeling a little bit comfortable with the car. Remember, just a fresh set of tires on there, so he wants to bring the temperature up and the pressure up on these tires. This will be the telltale here. Can he keep his foot on the throttle in 3? And he does. Nicely done. Has to do the same in 4. Because now you can see Paul Diatlovich on the right-hand side of your screen with his stopwatch, and what they're doing is a mock run right now. This would be the green flag run if they were to try to take a qualifying attempt. And what this is doing right now for them is basically a qualifying simulation. Now, as a driver, you drive the proper line, put as little scrub as possible into the car, using all the road as possible and 100% throttle. The rest is basically up to the setup of the car and also the aerodynamics of the car about how fast this car is going to go around the track.
Vince, you've got more?
Well, the one area, Scott, that they've been struggling with, and I know as a driver you can relate to this, the car is handling differently in both areas of the corner. Going into the corner, the car feels good, but from the center out, there is an understeer, and they feel like they're really scrubbing a significant amount of speed from the center of the corner out, and they've been trying all day long to free up the car from that perspective. And Jimmy Kite says it's just hooking up in the middle of the corner and it's difficult to turn through from the middle out.
Well, his first lap was a 2:10. His last lap was 2:14. That's not close.
Not even close. You need a 2:17, 2:18 on a warm-up if you're going to find yourself somewhere in the 2:20 range. And you could just tell that he's not comfortable with the car. Because as a driver, if you're happy with the car, you're out on the racetrack, you're aggressive, you can get after the throttle. And this is probably a big relief for Marty Roth right now, who's sitting here just waiting for his fate.
So far, Marty Roth doesn't have to do a thing except sit and wait because no one has come close to the speed that he has already recorded. Stay with us. Bump Day continues here at Indy. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you can see that Jimmy Kite has taken the helmet off. Now, I don't know if that means he's done for the day or if they're going to take one more stab at trying to work on it. Vince, what's the latest going on?
They're going to make one more chassis adjustment, giving it a turn of front wing, half turn of front wing, putting sticker tires on the car and taking it to the tech pad. Jimmy Kite will attempt to qualify this race car back into the field.
Ooh,
You're shaking your head.
I'm sitting here in my seat just going, you know what? Well, if a car's okay on the way into the turn and starting to push from the center of the turn offward, and you're going to add some front wing to it, that's just going to make the car real positive, turning real quick from entry in phase 1, phase 2, getting to the center of the turn. And if you get to the center of the turn, then maybe you can worry about that part afterwards.
Well,
I'd be worried about just getting to the center of the turn right now.
Vince, you're walking right beside Jimmy. Let's talk to him.
Well, Jimmy, you've not been able to find the speed. What makes you think that you're going to be able to find it now in this qualifying attempt?
Lots of praying. I got a whole straightaway to do it. We haven't done sticker tires yet today. We know stickers are going to pick us up some. We don't know. We've pulled about everything we can pull off the car. And there's not much else we can do except put a set of stickers on it and go out. We still have one more set of stickers after this. So, obviously this isn't our one and only attempt. If need be, we still have one more attempt that we can put on the car.
Can you take us inside what you're feeling in a situation where you've got to take it to the edge, maybe beyond the edge, for this car to have an opportunity, just to have a chance to gain the necessary speed?
It's like Paul said. It's the reason he hired me. It's just the other reason he hired me was to get this thing in the show, and unfortunately we're not there yet. So, I'm out there chugging along, full throttle. We're just, the engineers are doing their job. They're trying to get every little ounce of drag out of this car they can. It's, everybody's kind of scratching their head right now. We'll see right now exactly after this where we're at. We got sticker tires to at least try one more run if we need it.
That's Jimmy Kite, guys. Very difficult situation as he approaches the qualifying line.
Under 12 minutes, Vince, and the pressure continues to build. All right, let's go back to what you were talking about. As we show everybody the qualifying per day, you take a look, pick out your favorite driver. I'm going to go back. Based on what you heard on feedback, and I know this is probably an unfair situation, you were saying they may be going the wrong direction. What direction would you have gone?
I'm not saying they're going the wrong direction, but when a car is pushing from the center of the turn off, obviously it's obviously not working for them. It's got understeer is what they're complaining about, or Jimmy's complaining about. But when you go add front wing, that's obviously going to make the car turn in a lot quicker off the steering right on phase 1, going phase 2, going towards the center of the turn. And then that's it's actually adding a problem, I think, of what he doesn't have right now. It sounds like the car turning in, getting to the center is fine. It's from the center offwards. So, there's various things you do, and that's why they have engineers, and it can be done with springs and shocks and setup and stagger, all those different things that go with it. I just think that they're a long ways away from making that car find a couple of miles an hour, and he's going to go out there and just hang himself to try and make this thing go that quick. So we'll wait and see what the end result is.
We are approaching the 10-minute mark. We're going to take one more break before this run. This could be the last attempt to make the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500, and it's going to be one that you're going to have to hold your breath. Pole sitter Elio Castroneves leads the field to the green flag of the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 telecast, presented by GoDaddy.com. It's next Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on ABC. While we were in the break, Jimmy Kite made his way down towards the staging area, and Vince Welch was telling us that the fans were giving him an ovation as he was walking along, and that's always nice. There he is. I got to be honest, I am nervous because drivers have a tendency to do things at this moment, like you said, and I just don't want this guy to get hurt.
Well, you know something, he's wrapped up in the moment. You're walking through there, you feel the emotion that goes through your body when you're here at a place like this. You're getting chanted by the fans that just want to see you go out there and do a job. And, you know, are you really taking into account everything that's going on with the car? I mean, yes, there's a little bit more front wing in the car, a half a turn of front wing, also sticker tires, which makes the car grip a little bit more, but also going to be more grip turning into the turn to get to that center point where he says he's having the problems for moving forward. So, you know, I just pray along with him that going down that straightaway, everything's fine, and he has a good entry into turn one, and he can keep his foot on it and make 4 laps, and we'll see where he comes out with it.
How many millions was Roger Clemens paid by the Yankees for a prorated contract? You know, something like $45 million if he would have pitched the whole year. How much money would he ask for to climb into the cockpit of this car and say, okay, you got to take me beyond where you've been all month long?
Well, what I like about it is you talk about different athletes that Peyton Manning, the quarterback for the World Championship Indianapolis Colts, is going to be the honorary starter here at the Indianapolis 500. And asked if he wanted to drive the pace car, he says, there's not enough money for me to go out there and drive that pace car near 125 or 150 miles an hour.
It's hard enough when you have a good handling car underneath you and you look down and you're flying along at 220 miles an hour and you see the concrete walls on each side of you, especially heading in that turn one. It looks about as big as your fingernail. And this guy is going to do it with a car that is not balanced, nowhere near balanced like we saw on the first day.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what's going through with him right now. His throat is starting to get dry. His heart is starting to race just a little bit. They'll get in. He'll get inside the car. They'll start to do all these safety belts up for him. There's 6 different safety belts inside this car that comes to a center cluster. And as they pull down the shoulder straps going across his chest, then all of a sudden you actually got all that space taken up and your heart just starts to beat against the belt. And then all you want to do is just hear the command by Brian Barnhart to say, start your engine and head out to the racetrack. Somehow, some way, that when you get out onto the racetrack, the butterflies start to go away just a little bit and your nerves start to calm down a little bit because now you're really focusing the job at hand, and that's trying to make the car go as fast as it can.
Well, there's one thing you forgot. If it was me, I'd be throwing up.
Well, he just might be on that verge.
There's Marty Roth. They have moved closer to the staging line just in case they have to get into the tech line for another run. But they're going to be watching Jimmy Kite, as we all are, and the clock continues to roll. Let's listen in with Brian Barnhart as he gets ready to give the instructions. I'm not sure if he's leaning in yet. They still got to put the steering wheel on. I think he usually waits until they're done cinching up. So as soon as he starts talking, we'll back on out of here. But this is a pressure-packed moment. We've talked about it quite a bit. Let's listen in.
See on the video board, on the level, on your wall, R25. At 2:18.922.
Not much being said by the crew members. They're probably just as nervous as Jimmy is because they know what's at stake for everybody.
Well, their wish is to have him inside the field, obviously, so they can come back and take part of the world's largest one-day sporting event next Sunday, but they got a feel for him when he pulls out onto the racetrack. They got a feel for his safety and hope that, foremost, that he comes back with all 4 wheels on the race car, whether he's got enough speed to get the car into the field or not. They have to feel for that. And, you know, as P.J. Jones says, everybody will tell you inside this garage, and I'm sure even the people that are sitting in the first few rows of the Indianapolis 500 here, they know that Jimmy Kite is a good race car driver, but it is a monumental task to come here and expect that you can get up to speed with a team that doesn't compete on a regular basis and a driver that does not compete on a regular basis.
There are less than 4 minutes remaining in qualifying.
What we're going to do here, second lap, the big green flag, start the attempt on the car, 4 laps to completion. You're going to need 18.922. Recognize the hand you've been dealt. Don't overextend. Be smart out there. Give me 4 good ones. Thanks, bud.
Jimmy, thanks, Brian. And you heard Brian. Don't overextend. Marty Roth unstraps. He knows that the gun will sound while Jimmy Kite is out. So here we are again. Kite has been here before, trying to make it into the field. He pushes off. This will be the last qualifying attempt in 2007 to make the field for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500, and this is going to be a heart stopper. There's Paul Diatlovich. He'll make the long run back up to the north end of the track. Marty Roth, helmet off. He can only wait, similar to what happened to Dario Franchitti last week. The difference was they were fighting for the pole. These guys are fighting just to make the field.
A little better throttle sound for Jimmy Kite on the very first outlap that he has through the north end of the track on turns 3 and 4. Very committed to the throttle. That's a good sign. Remember, sticker tires, brand new tires. They've not been used before, so there's better adhesion with a set of sticker tires than there is from the ones that they were running previously, which had quite a few laps on them.
Notice the shade across the front stretch. Indiana went to daylight savings time a couple of years ago. We would have had that shade at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock, and now at close to 6 o'clock, totally covered.
And that shade always presented itself, Marty, happy hour. That's when cars would find a couple of miles an hour in speed because of cooler conditions. So that no longer is the case. But I'm liking the lines that Jimmy Kite is running right now, using the whole complete track and committing himself down the straightaway.
We'll get an idea on his warm-up lap. Here comes the green flag. 2:15 was his warm-up lap. There is the lap tracker now. That is Marty Roth's time, and he is behind already. The deeper it goes into the red, the worse it is for Jimmy Kite.
You can see the green throttle bar graph there. You can know that he's already on the throttle and completely on the throttle. Not much more a driver can do. Drive nice smooth lines as he's doing from the outside going into turn 3, right down to the apex and back out to the wall in the short chute like he's doing. But Marty, as you mentioned, that red line is getting worse the further he goes through that lap.
Coming by the first time, we'll see as he gets the first lap. The speed 2:14.7, nowhere near.
And as Paul Diatlovich grabs the yellow flag, which is a signal that he's ready to call the runoff, I'm not sure there's enough time to actually bring him in, make any further adjustments on the car, and send him back out because the speed is off. And now what he's doing probably smartly is knowing that he does not have the speed for it, so he's not going to leave his driver out there and put him at any further risk. So he's now heard via radio that he can no longer continue on the throttle because he does not have the speed.
And there's the gun in the upper right. That should be going off in about 5 more seconds. As Jimmy Kite's day and his hopes for the Indy 500, well, they'd be over if the gun would fire. And can somebody say bang? It is official, even though the gun hasn't officially sounded. There it is. She finally got third time's a charm. Unfortunately, it wasn't a charm for Jimmy Kite. A relieved Marty Roth is in the field, Brienne.
That's right, guys. Marty Roth, congratulations are in order for you. How relieved are you right now?
It's great that it's 1 minute after 6. I've been waiting a long time for that, but it's been a long day. And, you know, unfortunately, we had a lousy qualifying, and that's the price you pay. You know, you end up taking your turn to the bubble, and it's a very uncomfortable situation. You know, we had a really good car. We were doing 221s out here all day long, and you know, we were just debating if we're going to stick it in and requalify, and no, don't worry about it. You know, I'm back and forth. So it was quite the drama in our pits all day, and you know, we're just glad it's over, and we're glad to be in the show, and looking forward to race day now.
We heard a little bit of your radio communication going on. Tell us about the chess game that was going on between your pit and Jimmy Kite's pit.
Well, I'm not really privy to his what was happening there, but you know, we were just fine tuning the car and making some last minute changes, and that's kind of what got us out of in the trouble in the first place with our qualifying run the other day. Was made a last minute change that we didn't try out on the track, and you know, so every change we did today was just to, you know, see what it would do if we had to stick it back in and requalify the car. So we were very cautious, and you know, we didn't have to go do it, so it's all good.
Well, there's one more practice before race day. Anything that you need to still figure out to find some more speed, or do you feel confident in your car for race day?
We've got to work on full tanks and high downforce right now and stick it in traffic. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that, just with all this qualifying going on, and we didn't want to mix up cars just in case we missed anything. So, it's a matter of that last day on Friday. We just got to get in traffic, fill it up, put all the downforce on it, and work it in traffic.
Thanks. I'm sure he's a great night's sleep tonight. Vince?
Well, there may not be any sleep for these two gentlemen. What a difficult day. And this is the heartbreak, Paul, of Indianapolis sometimes. You've been here and you've experienced the highs of the Indianapolis 500. You've been here 30-plus years. Today, the lows of the Speedway. Can you maybe just put in perspective the disappointment?
Yeah, just probably wasted, the talent of one of the finest drivers that ever come here, because, our car wasn't up to speed.
How about the investment that you put forth, Paul?
We'll find out when the dust settles down. It's long, it's tough, it's expensive, and we didn't make it, and I don't know, might have a garage sale.
You made the comment to me earlier today that if it was easy, everyone would do it, and
this place isn't easy. It's not supposed to be easy. This place starts the 33 fastest, best prepared cars. Obviously, I missed. And I have to give credit to the crew. They persevered. They worked with us. We crashed. We came back. They never missed a beat. The car was mechanically excellent. It didn't have the right setup on it, and that's totally, my error, my fault. And it just seemed to waste the talent of Jimmy Kite.
Jimmy's had a difficult day as well, a difficult few days. It began with the accident on the very first day of practice that set you guys back. Obviously, you couldn't afford to be set back. How difficult has it been for you trying to chase the speed here the last few days?
It sucks when we trim the car out all we can get it trimmed out, and we just, we figured we had plenty in it yesterday, and we come out today and start trimming, and we just weren't gaining speed. We weren't scrubbing or anything. It's just that was about as free as that car is going to be. It just didn't seem to like going down the straightaways very much. I was running flat. I had a little lift early, but most laps in practice and everything's all flat. And I don't know. I hate it for guys that Jim and everybody at Z-Line Design. They came on expecting us to be here next Sunday, and we expected to be there too. It sucks having to watch that race on TV.
Can you talk about your relationship with Paul and what it means to have had an opportunity to come here, and then in addition to that, the disappointment of not being able to get his car in the field with everything he had on the line today?
I'm not going to say I feel like I let him down. We did all we could. It's just a shame. Since I ran for these guys in 03, we got along so well in 02 and 03. Paul would do anything in the world for me, and we've tried to put something together since 03, and it finally came together this year. I know he was really excited. I was extremely excited to get to work for him again and drive for him, and I don't know. It sucked for me, but I hate it for Paul because he's such a great guy, and really believes in me, and I know there's nothing else I could have done, but I still feel like I let him down. I just wish there was something else we could have done.
Well, it's the heartbreak of Indianapolis, Marty.
It has happened throughout the years. Even in the earliest days of this event, teams would come here underfunded, trying to prove themselves on this, the world's largest stage, the biggest test ground. And for Paul Diatlovich, the question now is he'll have to go back, put pen to paper, figure out how he's going to pay all these bills, and hopefully, they find a solution and they're back again next year. If he can, I guarantee you he'll be back.
Oh, I'm sure his heart is in it because he certainly is a racer. And you mentioned underfunded, he is, but when Jimmy says I'm trying to get the drag off the car, they don't have the aerodynamic pieces that all the top teams do, the regular teams do, to make that car slippery going down the straightaway. And that's when the time when we'd actually start to see those 227s, 228s going into turns 1 203 versus the 222s that we were seeing. There's only so much that Jimmy can do. He tried his best, the team tried his best, but being underfunded and really not having the latest technology is a very hardship of Indianapolis here, but it's in your heart. You want to be here. But I think of Jimmy now, he's going to go back, he's going to turn around and get all his stuff off, hang it in his locker, and know that that's where it's going to sit for the next week, and he's not going to come back here on race day and put his gear back on and get in the car for the race.
Yeah, but he didn't cross over that line. He's not going to be making the trip, as we have seen so many times, guys going down to Methodist Hospital when they tried to do too much with too little equipment. So hats off to both P.J. Jones's team for making their call. It's tough. Hats off to Paul Diatlovich and Jimmy Kite as they, too, miss the show but earn a lot of respect from everybody here at Indianapolis. Stay with us. We still have a lot more. There are a lot of great stories to be told. One of them is right there, Davey Hamilton. We'll tell you about it when we come back.
Steady as I quicken pace, then I'm wide open. How fast can you run?
Well, you had to run faster than 218.9 miles an hour. That's what ended up being the bump spot. Let's show you the starting grid now. We know the 33. These guys have been in for a week, and they've been practicing for a week. Elio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti on the front row.
Row 2 is going to chase him into turn 1. There's no doubt about that, along with Scott Dixon, Sam Hornish Jr., and Target Chip Ganassi teammate Dan Welvin.
In row number 3, a man we're going to talk to in just a few moments, Ryan Briscoe, alongside Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti.
And on the inside of row 4, Thomas Schechter with Vision Racing, Michael Andretti, who's still looking for his first victory here, and Scott Sharp.
Scott's teammate Jeff Simmons will be on the inside of row 5, then Ed Carpenter from Vision Racing, Darren Manning, the A.J. Foyt tree.
Inside of row number 6, 2004 winner Buddy Rice, Kotski Masura, and A.J. Foyt IV.
Then in row number 7, it's Vitor Mira and Davey Hamilton, who we'll be talking to also in just a matter of moments, and Sarah Fisher on the outside of row 7.
On the inside of row number 8, a past champion, Buddy Lazier, the winner in 1996, Roger Yasukawa, and joining us from NASCAR, John Andretti.
Then in row number 9, it's Al Unser Jr. He'll be making his 19th start. Alex Barron in the middle, outside John Hurd.
On the inside of row number 10, Buddy Lazier's brother, Jacques Lazier, the third female in the race this year, Milka Duno, and Marty Roth, who we saw sitting and sweating, making sure he was going to stay in the field this year.
And the 3 who made it in today, Roberto Moreno, Richie Hearn, and Phil Giebler, our second rookie in the Indianapolis 500. We promised you a chat with Davey Hamilton. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Marty, we certainly saw the pain that was on Paul Diatlovich's face, who mortgaged his home to try and live a dream. For Davey Hamilton, in many respects, he mortgaged his health to try and live the dream. And at least, Davey, your dream came true. But that's what Indy is all about.
Yeah, this place is crazy. I mean, what you do to get to this place is remarkable. And, Paul, he's had a tough time getting sponsorship the last couple of years. And, remember last year where they crashed a car, they put it out there, and he made it in the field with Tiago. And this year just didn't work his way. But, we do crazy things. I've been trying to get back in this race for, really 3 years hard. And I never gave up. And this is it. This is what it's all about. And when you miss the show, it's never fun, but you always have next year to look forward to.
23 surgeries, and also what most people don't realize is you had to pay almost 6 figures back to an insurance company, and now you will start the 91st annual Indianapolis 500, and God forbid something should happen to those feet, you won't have insurance.
No, I'm good. I actually paid. It was 6 figures I had to pay, but I'm insured again just as I was before the accident. I'm ready to rock and roll. I mean, everything, it was a long road to get that all worked out, but we got it taken care of. It's all paid up. I'm insured again. I'm just like it's fresh and starting all over again.
Most of your peers did full tanks, kind of retreated, went over, tried to get out of here. You stayed right to the bitter end. You watched it all unfold. Why?
PJ's my pal. PJ Jones and I, we go back a long ways. We're short track racers, and he's my buddy. I was hoping he would get in this thing, and we actually bought his car over and put it on my scale pad. Larry Curry had him come over to check and see if the scales were right, and David Cripps, our engineer, tried to help me out a little bit, but it was just a little bit too late, before we could do enough for them. And it's just unfortunate. It's really hard with the mileage thing. I'm not sure how that all works on the 1 week program, but man, PJ gave it all he had, and that team, it's just too bad for those guys because I know a lot of guys hung out a lot for him to be here.
Did you have an opportunity to talk to PJ after Kent Baker and PJ Jones decided to throw the towel in?
Yeah, I talked to him, and, he's a very disappointed guy. I mean, this is the first one he's missed, and, it was a situation where, back to the thing, is he wants to be here so bad, and he works all year long to put the program together to get here. Once they made it here, they did a great car for Parnelli, painted that thing orange like the Turbine car. It was a great story and a great opportunity for him, and just such small things keep you out of this race. I mean, when you watch that car go by, he's going very fast. I mean, you're going very fast, and when you only miss by a couple miles an hour, that doesn't seem like very much, 2 miles an hour, but to get it here, it's very difficult.
Davey Hamilton will start the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500 as part of Vision Racing and fulfill a dream that almost ended a number of years ago at Texas Motor Speedway. Scott, I have to formally say that you were right and I was wrong at the end of the day today. There was the bumping, and the teams and some of the cars that decided to take those slower speeds now find themselves on the outside looking in at the run of the Indianapolis 500. But that, I believe, in fact, what we witnessed today is what makes the Indianapolis 500 so unique and makes it stand out above and beyond any other motorsports event in the world. Some people will mortgage their future, some people will mortgage their health, some people will gamble, some people will lose. Brianne?
And some people will travel all night long just to get here. Ryan Briscoe has been one busy guy. He raced yesterday in the ALMS series in Utah, won that race. Congratulations. Then you flew all night long, got here at 3 a.m., and we're on the track this afternoon. Are you tired yet?
A little bit, but when you're out there, you got the adrenaline going. It fixes everything. But no, it was really good yesterday. We had a great win, and our Porsche RS Spiders were running perfectly out there in Salt Lake City. So definitely feels good coming back here to Indy with the win under our belt, and got some good vibe going here.
Well, you've been racking up the frequent flyer miles, going back and forth, hopping from series to series this month. Are you here now until race day? Do you get to have any time to relax?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here with all the other drivers. I mean, tomorrow morning, pretty early, we all fly to New York for the photo of the starting grid, but we've got a lot of commitments right through the week with autograph sessions and appearances here and there, but from now on, it's 100% focused on the Indy 500, and it's been good this weekend, being distracted a little bit, going and racing in the sports cars. It was actually nice to, after 3 weeks of being here every single day, to go away and have some fun with those things, and especially have a win, come back here with a fresh mind, and be focused for next week.
Well, you got some runs in today. What did you guys work on today, and were you happy with those runs?
Yeah, it was good. Our race prep last week was last Wednesday, and it was pretty cool actually. So it was good today. It was really hot. The wind was strong, so it was pretty difficult conditions. It could be like this in the race. So we were still doing race prep, full tanks, a couple of long runs. We changed the setup a bit to get a feel of different setups, and it was feeling good. So we've got a lot to look over until Friday when we go out on carb day. Some good ideas, but so far feeling really good.
Well, hopefully you get some sleep before that flight tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going straight home now.
Guys.
All right, thanks, Maria. A big smile on his face. And there's the man that has won more Indy 500s than any other owner, Roger Penske. We'll talk to him when we come back. Sam Hornish won last year, and Elio has won it twice. Stay with us. Back here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where bump day is over and the field is set, and we have a page of history being turned as we have, for the first time, 3 women competing in this year's Indianapolis 500. Danica Patrick will start 8th, Sarah Fisher 21st, and Milka Duno 29th. In fact, Milka is with Jackaroo.
Well, actually, she's with me and a bunch of fans. She's been signing autographs. First of all, Milka, congratulations. Can you describe the feeling knowing now that you are going to start your first Indianapolis 500?
It's incredible. I'm so happy for my team, for myself, for my sponsor Zico, that we are here, because it was hard work to arrive here to get some place in the 500, but we did.
Were there ever any doubts from your standpoint?
I have confidence about myself. I knew that we got this. Yes, It was something that happened last week, but we recovered. We show the potential that we have like a team for recover, put everything together again, and go to qualifying, and we have a place here.
Earlier this week, you were quoted in the local paper as saying there are 11 spots left in this field, and I am entitled to one.
It's mine. I say always that. Last week, everybody when asked me, say, there are 11 spots left, and one is mine. I am here.
And so we have made history, gentlemen. We are now going to see 3 females take the command to start engines a week from today. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Well, speaking of making history, there's no one who's made it more often at Indianapolis than this man, Roger Penske, on the pole for the 14th time for the Indianapolis 500. You've got 14 wins. Do you feel like you can win again this year?
Well, Vince, every time I come here, it's you start all over. There's a lot of good cars this year, and certainly Elio did a super job, but it's 500 miles come next Sunday, and I just hope that we're going to be there. I think we've got an experienced team. They've done a good job running all month. We've stayed out of trouble. So, again, it's going to be no mistakes. We can't make a mistake like we did last year and win this race. I know they won't give us that chance again.
We are standing here outside the IndyCar Series offices because you're drawing for the pit stalls for the race on the 27th. You selected the first and the third pit area. Can you talk about the significance of where you will be in the pit lane on race day?
Well, I think it's important to be down at the end as far as you can. That way people aren't pulling out on you as you're coming in or coming out. And Elio had the first pit and picked number 3. Carr picked the second pit, so we picked the third pit for Sam. So we're in great shape down at that end.
Thank you, Roger. Best of luck on race day.
Thanks.
He is a master tactician, especially at this place. So you take a look at his performance here. 14 wins, 14 poles with 10 different drivers. Stay with us. We'll wrap things up from Indy as we get ready for the race. Coulda, shoulda, wouldas as P.J. Jones talks it over with his team as the month of May is over for his team. Stay with us. One last break, and then we'll put a period on as we head to race day. The track has gone silent here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as qualifying is over. And as you take a look at our complete starting grid with all 33 names in their appropriate positions, Scott Goodyear, let's talk about who the favorites have to be going into race day.
Well, you're looking at 4 rows there, Marty, and you could probably pick about 5 or 6 people right there. Ryan Briscoe we talked to, I've been very impressed with his satellite operation coming from Penske Racing. I like Danica this year, something she seems very confident.
So do I. I absolutely think this could be her year to be a legitimate threat, not just a 4th place finisher. Take a look at the middle section of this grid. The Davey Hamilton story, boy, if he could pull it off, there'd be crying eyes everywhere.
Outstanding story along with Roger Yasukawa, who starts just behind him there. But the last 3 rows, when you look at it, Roberto Marino, what a great story that is. And when you think about Milko Duno actually making the middle of row number 10, that is a neat story all unto itself. Although I think she's going to have a huge learning curve come race day, because I've started in the front row, I've started in the middle, and I've started in the back row, Marty. When you start further back in this field, it's like no race you've ever started before, and they start here 3 abreast.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind, and it all happens next week. And for us, well, we'll be around with SportsCenter inserts throughout the week, and then, of course, Carb Day next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All I can say is this place never disappoints us. We had drama, we had excitement, we had it all.
We had, expectations from a lot of teams that we thought would be on the front row. They weren't, because they couldn't get it right for qualifying day. Who will get it right for race day? That remains to be seen.
Tune in Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 for Carb Day. Then next Sunday, it's the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Coming up next, it's the 2004 World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions. For our entire ESPN crew, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us.